Welcome back to the Dynasty Football Key. All right, guys. Hey, it's August 26th, and we're less than 10 days away from week one of the NFL season. And I'm excited. Today, I got a really good guest who I was right next to at the Fantasy Football Expo earlier this month, Steve Bradshaw. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining the show.
Good, man. Yeah, it was nice talking to you at the expo, and we talked about getting on a show. And with football season right here, it's like the perfect time, ramping things up, but super excited to just talk some ball, especially some week one knowledge as I'm kind of just diving into that kind of stuff right now.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm super excited. And look, everything that we've been doing, you see everyone at the expo, we're all trying to put out more stuff that can help folks just get ready for the season and really crush their leagues, right? Not everybody can win, but man, you guys seem to be working on some exciting stuff with the fantasy trade room. So tell us a little bit about that and what you've been working on.
Yeah, so the main principle of the fantasy trading room is we kind of start out as everyone else in the industry, building off of data, right? So my co-owner, Aman, he made a model. We do a lot of models, spreadsheets, all that kind of good stuff. And he essentially made a model, a predictive model that's about 70% accurate for like the base of the rankings. So that's like a good start, but we kind of want to complete that cycle. So what we also have is we have a YouTube channel where we watch film from a fantasy football perspective, which isn't something that, a lot of companies do. Like, you'll see right there that video, Brock Bowers, like he's generational. Yeah, the numbers say that he is, an elite prospect, right? Scoring 15 touchdowns as a freshman, dominating. But let's go back and watch the film to see if the eye test checks out. Now, what we do for like our big set of rankings is we'll look at the players that our data says we are higher on or lower on than consensus. We'll go and watch the tape back for those players and adjust them accordingly to make sure we're getting the full, perspective. And then we always love watching tape on, the incoming Dynasty class for basically all those players. And, a lot of the top end exciting guys, like for a redraft, we'll look at like Devon A-Chain. We did a video on that. Keon Coleman, just like polarizing players like that. So that's kind of our, what we do. Of course, we just do a lot of rankings as well. Super high quality graphics, super high quality content. You guys can see there. But yeah, that's kind of like the premise of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, man, this is really clean. Looks like you got a lot of good content here. So guys, check this out, man. I mean, the way I operate is anywhere I can get, even if it's just one good fantasy nugget. I mean, I'm tuned in, man. So I'm gonna be checking this out. I've got a couple drafts I did last week. I got one coming up this week, redraft wise. So Yeah, guys, go check this out. Fantasy Trading Room. This is fftradingroom.com, and you can find more at FTR Fantasy on Twitter. So yeah, man. Yeah, looks really good, man. And it looks like you cover some other sports as well when we jump into those seasons around Christmas and all that. So cool, man. I love it. So
Thank you, man.
today, and we can definitely touch back on it a little bit more. Maybe like weave in a little bit how this has helped your process when we get into the topic of today. We're going to be doing rankings for week one, but guys, we haven't had too much input right from the offseason. We need to see how these players are gelling with the new offenses, the new coaching staffs, and the new players and chemistry that they got around them. So we've only been able to see so much from preseason and training camps, right? So we're going to learn a lot in week one. So this is kind of still our season-long projections and rankings, but at the same time, we are going to factor in a little bit into some of these matchups. But we'll go through each position here and give our thoughts on these players and figure real quick, Steve, go ahead and shoot out that link to your guys and see if we can get any questions going in the chat. So guys, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to throw those in here, and I'll go ahead and remind you guys you can find me at Dynasty F Key, and I'll be posting out some more weekly content to help you guys be ready for each of these weeks coming on so you can help win your leagues. So yeah, with that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We've got quarterbacks that we want to really start off with. A lot of folks are in super flex leagues, but I'm curious your philosophy with the quarterback position, because I feel like there's a group that can be big difference makers, and then sometimes I like to wait after that. So I've been into some of those wait strategies and just late round quarterback or zero RB, and I find a position that I like to focus on, and then I see if I can catch some value later, because a lot of times we do see a late guy emerge. But what's your process in general for redraft leagues? And we can start with the redraft, and if you got a perspective on Dynasty, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, so for redraft, I mean, a lot of people I know actually play in like ESPN standard leagues or like PPR, but where the rosters are super small, like 2 running backs, 1 flex, 2 wide receivers, and like a tight end quarterback. So there, the quarterbacks and tight ends actually give you a good positional advantage. So at that point, I'm okay taking like a top 5 quarterback early. Now, I kind of want to get those guys in like round 3, round 4. Like I'd be going after like a Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts in that range. I'll even take some Anthony Richardson this year. So those top 5 guys, I'm okay drafting before round 5. It probably in that 3rd to 5th round range. And then after, I like Kyler Murray this year. I really just don't want to be drafting quarterbacks within round 7 through almost 10. Those guys like Stroud, Burrow, Dak, even or like Love, I'm not really a fan of. If I'm gonna draft a quarterback late, there's pretty much one guy that I'm targeting and I'll reach above ADP, and that's Jaden Daniels this year. So high upside quarterbacks late, but I don't actually mind taking a quarterback, 3rd, 4th round. And then same thing for tight end. Normally it's one or the other. So if I get a tight end, say round 4, then I'll probably try and wait and grab like Jane Daniels, or I'll go, Kyler Murray round like 6 or something like that. But I'm probably not going to double up like quarterback round 3 or 2 and then tight end round 4, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because you're missing out on so much other, potent offense that you might get from some of these other elite assets as well in those ranges. So yeah, that makes sense. And we got a question: have any of the preseason games made you second guess some of your rookie rankings? And we don't see enough for me to really put too much stock into it. A lot of times it's just about getting through healthy. I feel like with a Malik Neighbors, you kind of see more and more that his quarterback is just not getting better. But I still I mean, I get rookie fever because I just do so much Dynasty, but I'm still in on Malik Neighbors. I drafted him in a redraft league a couple days ago as like my third receiver, I think. And, just hoping for some upside. So that hasn't shaken me off. And like Jaden Daniels, like how you mentioned, like for me, I've been on him before the draft. And if anything, I'm more bullish on him just seeing some of those good shots. But how about you, Steve? Has there been any preseason games or action from those games that made you think about re-ranking some of these rookies?
Honestly, not really. I'd say if anything, it's more reassuring. I'm looking at like a guy like Bo Nix, who I was super high on, and Ryan
Yeah,
Thomas Jr., and both those guys have been kind of big risers. If I had to pick someone, I'd say I'm a little, I would have liked to see more about Trey Benson because I felt like people were calling him the RB1 over Jonathan Brooks. I was never on that train, but I thought they were kind of similar. And it seems like from when I ranked him close to Brooks, I felt like there was a shot that he was going to take over for James Conner, even without an injury. And he's looked fine, but he hasn't been like, a world beater where I feel like super confident that that actually will happen in year one. And I kind of did think there was a good shot, but now I'm pretty less optimistic about that. Just
yeah.
also hearing like the coach speak and all that stuff too.
That's actually a good one. We had a lot of high hopes for Trey Benson, but ultimately, he was a third round pick. If he had that second round draft capital and this was happening, I would be surprised. But because, third rounder, I'm not surprised that he just hasn't caught on as quickly as we just wanted to vault him into. So that's a good one, to be honest, because there has been a lot of buzz. Obviously, like a JJ McCarthy, that's obvious. He's out of the picture now. But yeah, man, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into these rankings. So, for quarterbacks, I mean, I'm curious if you're too different from who I've got at number one, but how are you starting this thing off?
I'm still at Josh Allen at one.
Okay.
He has a solid week one matchup as well against the Cardinals. They are 5.5 point favorites, but I think that this could have the potential to be a shootout, 48 point over under. So one of the highest scoring games of the week. I think it's a great spot for Allen to come out there and crush immediately.
Yeah. And at this point, you've got to assume the team is riding on his shoulders right now. He's got to carry those guys. As much as we want James Cook to be that guy, he's not even a goal line back, really, just from what we've seen. So there's still plenty of work for Josh Allen. As much as we want to say they want to keep him healthy, I mean, this season they set it up how they said he's going to have to carry the load. No matter who's healthy, or not, it's going to be all on him to deliver. So, just a huge workload and huge rushing upside for Josh Allen. All right, man. What do you got next for us? All right, quarterback
I'm,
two.
I'm going Jalen Hurts. I think a lot of these top five guys, the matchups don't even really matter. Week one, I'm locked and loaded Allen. I'm locked and loaded Jalen Hurts at two. I mean, it is a solid matchup. Week one, I believe they play the Packers. So again, pretty big scoring game. But either way, I'm putting Hurts there at two.
Yeah. So then we'll keep this train rolling. Who do you think you got at three here?
Give me Lamar. Still
Okay.
betting in
Figured it
that
was
rushing
rushing.
quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Lamar. Coming off his second MVP season, I'm pretty excited about him. I think, Jalen Hurts has proven he's the number two fantasy quarterback. Even in a quote unquote down season, he still produced a lot, and we'll see about the tush push and all that. But I just think that's kind of his play style. And then Lamar Jackson, we know what he is. That's another scenario where the weapons, to kind of dictate the game be on his shoulders. But with Derrick Henry, I am curious if some of that goal line work goes away. Lamar Jackson has led the Ravens in rushing multiple seasons. Henry's always led his team in rushing, obviously. So we'll see what happens there. Still very high on Lamar Jackson. Um, so yeah, give us your number four quarterback here.
At 4, I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't have the most rushing upside, and the guy I'm going to talk about next actually has some more. But I just like his floor ceiling combination. Even though Hollywood Brown went down, which I'm kind of bummed about because I was super high on him coming to this year. I mean, he had a down year last year, but he has some Rasheed Rice in year 2, assuming he doesn't get suspended. Xavier Worthy, who I think is going to be great, even though I don't know if he's going to be that good from a week-to-week fantasy perspective. I think he's going to help that offense out a ton, just being able to be a deep threat. I think Mahomes, you got to have to bet on that bounce back to where he was just fantastic before last season. So I want to price him in as my QB4.
All right, that's the week 1 matchup to start off the season, Thursday night. 7:20. Set your calendar, man. That's going to be an awesome one. Man, you think this will be a shootout?
Oh, yeah. Vegas has it as a 46.5 over under, but I think it could be even higher than that. I mean, the Ravens do have a pretty stout defense, but still, I think it's going to be some points scored for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so you alluded to it. Who's your QB5?
My QB5 is Anthony Richardson. I know Twitter is freaking out about him throwing a atrocious pick 6, even though it kind of seemed like it was a miscommunication watching it back. But I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. We know what we're getting from Anthony Richardson, and that's his ability to run the football. He did get injured last year, but I'm also a big fan of Shane Steichen and just the situation in general. I think Pittman's very good. I'm not very bullish on any of the pass catchers because I don't think Richardson is going to be a good real-life quarterback, but I think he's going to run the football a lot, and that's really all you need because he has a ton more rushing upside than basically anyone else that we're going to talk about at the quarterback position after this.
Yeah, man, there was nothing more exciting than those brief 4 games he had that past season, man. I was texting one of my good friends who's a Colts fan. I'm just like, uh-oh, y'all got something on your hands here. This dude put up 2 touchdowns. It seemed like the first quarter or something, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's crazy. So we'll see if he can stay healthy. But you said it, man, and a great 2023 version of Anthony Richardson was Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a guy who maybe can or cannot throw as well as some of these other quarterbacks, but the rushing still actually helped me win a league. And this guy's not even starting potentially this year, whereas Richardson, he's got a great coach that we believe in, whereas you couldn't say that for Justin Fields. And he's really set up for success with weapons, where again the weapons were totally different in Chicago last year for Fields. So Richardson's just in a better spot, and if he can just do exactly what Justin Fields did, we'd be happy for that. And there's potential for more. So yeah, I like that. In fantasy, you got to take these big swings if you're trying to win these leagues. So absolutely got to be in on Anthony Richardson. I should ask, and not necessarily for all of these, but ADP wise, or what round maybe are you comfortable taking Anthony Richardson? And we're talking a redraft single quarterback.
Yeah, I have Richardson ranked 48th overall, so end of round 4, early round 5 in that range. I mean, I'm not super high on him. I'll take him if I think he's a good value. I think draft boards are either one or two ways with him. Either there's someone super high and he'll get drafted a lot earlier than that, or he'll fall even a little further than that. So I'll take him if he falls, but I'm not going out of my way to scoop him up every single time.
Yeah, and even though I'm excited about him, I think you might have mentioned it earlier. There's a good group of quarterbacks this year that I'm really in on, and kind of the same with the tight end position. So as much as I want to be in on Richardson, it's not the end all be all, because we just have more rushers of the football than ever before. For quarterback 6, this quarterback, are they in the same matchup here on the right side of the screen?
No.
Okay. All right. Who do you got 6?
I have Kyler Murray, one spot
it.
above the person you are alluding to. I'm just really big on Kyler. I think that he's kind of being underrated now that he has been pretty silent for the last 2 years dealing with the ACL injury. And with him, people are so quick to forget that he was just almost a perennial top 5 fantasy quarterback because he's also a great runner. And last year he got his legs under him. He wasn't fantastic, but he really turned on at the end of the year. Now he gets an emerging Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., who is arguably better than I don't know if I want to say better than when DeAndre Hopkins was playing with him, but it's close. I think that with the combination of the two, it's probably the best situation that he's ever had. And of course, he can run the ball a lot more than my quarterback 7, which is always, the most important tiebreaker in my opinion.
Yeah, don't sleep on this guy. He's been one of the top fantasy point scorers of all time per game. So, just because he had a down season in which he did come back and play well, don't sleep on this guy. He'll be a full year removed from that injury. Good weapons, but still a little young. But again, like you said with McBride, I think he's got enough to work with on top of that rushing. So you've got CJ Stroud at QB7. That's who I was talking about earlier. And yeah, going up against Anthony Richardson that first week, I think any game CJ Stroud's in, that could be a shootout. It seems like the type of team to put up those type of numbers. The offense is, the defense is still young. So even though I believe in the defense, maybe being young still leads to the other team being able to put up a fight, and there could be some shootouts. But just in general, how do you feel about CJ Stroud in year 2? You're deferring obviously to these rushing quarterbacks for the most part. So how do you feel about CJ Stroud?
I'm not a big fan of CJ Stroud, to be honest. I really only like grabbing him when I can stack him with a guy like Nico Collins or Tank Dell later. I do understand that he has an amazing weapons group, but I'm also kind of down on Stephon Diggs, which, makes me a little less optimistic about this offense being a, top 3. I think they'll be top 5, but I'm not sure they're going to be as good as everyone thinks because Diggs, people are remembering like prime Buffalo Diggs, but he was clearly not very efficient at the end of the year. And I think a lot of that has to do with his age cliff. I mean, he's getting up there. He's now 30 years old. So just not great. And also people are kind of talking about him like he was a phenomenal rookie quarterback, which he was for fantasy, like a top 5 guy. He finishes the quarterback 11. And that's because he provides little to no rushing upside. And that's not going to change in year 2. That was always the knock coming out of college was, can he make plays out of structure? Does he have the mobility? And while he actually impressed me making plays on the run, creating, he still doesn't run the football nearly enough to make up for that in a 4-point passing touchdown league, which is the standard. So that's kind of what I'm operating under.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, guys, is you should be trading away CJ Stroud in Dynasty and get everything you can. Would you agree with that?
Dynasty is another. Assuming you're playing Superflex, that's a whole other story. No, I wouldn't trade Stroud.
Yeah, but I think you can profit like Stroud for Kyler Murray. Would you trade CJ Stroud for Kyler Murray in a first?
Yeah, probably. If it's a projected early first or mid, probably. The thing in Dynasty though is, and why it's kind of my quarterback strategy is very flipped. In Dynasty, I actually do really like having these pocket passers because you're playing for 3+ year windows. Where Redraft, it's it doesn't matter past this year. So the rushing quarterbacks, well, typically, it's hard to say that they're going to be more injury prone. It's just kind of the nature of the game. I just trust the longevity of those guys, and I'd rather build a cornerstone around at least one good pocket passer. Normally what I like to do, like for my dynasty team, my main dynasty team right now, is I have Kyler Murray, and then I'll follow him up with another top 12 quarterback that's a pocket passer. Like I have Jordan Love. So I kind of want to mix and match. It all depends on the situation, in my opinion. But yeah, I do like Kyler a lot, so I probably would take the market advantage and just flip him for additional first. But I actually don't hate Stroud's price as much in Dynasty as I do in Redraft.
Yeah. I've seen him go highly, but I definitely hear what you're saying. Like, let's just keep it to numbers. The numbers show that as much however fun it is, the whole CJ Stroud story, which I love it. I eat that stuff up, but yeah, I mean the points are with a lot of these other quarterbacks. So let's move forward and yeah, number 8. Who do you got there?
Quarterback 8, I have Joe Burrow. Not super excited about him either. I think he has upside as a passer. It kind of just feels like a bad move if I was going to let him fall any lower than this, because still has a great weapons group with Jamar Chase, assuming he plays, T. Higgins. I'm also a big Jermaine Burton fan. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a great situation. Burrow, people are kind of forgetting how good he was. And I've looked into some sports books as well, and they're kind of projecting Burrow to be in the MVP running already. So I think that he's not a super exciting pick, but it's hard to pass up on him just based on his, floor. And then he still has a decently high ceiling based on his offense.
yeah, and depending on what draft room you're in, redraft wise, he can fall. And if you're a person that likes your CJ Stroud, I mean, him and Burrow are so similar. As far as what I think they can do on the field. Burrow, a lot of people I would say are believe he's definitely better than Stroud. So it's just been the health. We've seen him get injured too many times to where I think that stands in people's minds. But yeah, he can definitely have a pretty good season. And shout out DeRoll FF. Y'all check out his channel and I appreciate it, man. Just got to 300 subscribers. So let's just keep rolling. We're getting ready for the season, and keep subscribing if you're not a subscriber. Thanks, y'all. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Hey, yeah. Number 9. What do you got for us?
I have Dak, and while he was super good last year, I just don't really see a path for him repeating that. It just kind of seemed like everything went right for him. CeeDee Lamb was unbelievable, but even then they had. I just don't like if CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to sign his extension, but say CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, or say CeeDee Lamb goes down. I think we're
Yeah.
looking at the Cowboys as one of the worst offenses in the NFL. So there's a lot riding on that one player, and I just don't know if Dak is truly a difference maker. He's not, that fantastic like Burrow or Stroud in the air, and he's not, a great runner either. So it's just kind of a pick that I'll take him, but I'm not loving here.
Yeah. Well, you're right because they're ranked 32nd at running back. Not sure where they're ranked at tight end, probably top 10. But yeah, it's basically the tight end and CeeDee Lamb. If if CeeDee were to hold out, that'd be a whole nother story. I think that he'd be getting paid real quickly because there's just nothing this team can do without him, basically. So yeah, it's a little bit fragile, but it was that way last year and it led to a ton of targets. So you need to thread the needle of everyone staying healthy, and could work out. But yeah, without that mobility, you're relying on everything to go just right. So who do you got at number 10?
At 10, I have Jaden Daniels, and he's the guy that I really like targeting in all my drafts. It kind of seems like in ADP wise, there's a big drop off between Burrow, Dak, and then you kind of have Jaden Daniels and the other quarterbacks going around close to pick 100. I'll even grab him early in round 9 just because I believe in the rushing upside so much. Went over 700 yards in college his last 3 seasons. And keep in mind, he had 1,000 yards last year. Keep in mind, that's including sacks counting as negative yards. So that's super impressive. He was one of the best runners in college football, not just for quarterbacks, for everyone. And again, like I preach, it's really all about rushing in that format. You have Justin Fields, who was not good last year, but he still was a good fantasy quarterback. And he was scoring about 18 points per game. I think that's about Daniel's floor. I think they're drafting him really close to that right here. And he has the upside to be even better because the Commanders aren't great, but I mean, they have a solid Terry McLaurin. The coaching staff for Cliff Kingsbury seems like he'll run everything through him. It's a, kind of pass happy offense. And then he's more than okay letting his quarterback run the ball. So I'm just really big on Jaden Daniels this year based on his rushing upside. And I think he has a good floor with that rushing ability. But if he's good as a real life quarterback, as he was the number 2 overall pick, then he could absolutely crush. And I could see him, easily pass Dak, easily pass Joe Burrow, easily pass Stroud, and get near that top 5 to 6 quarterback range.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we've seen this team support RG3. We'll see what they can do here, but he's got enough to work with, I think. All right, so real quick, Roll, he asked, or he said he'll reach on Caleb if he needs to. He likes him at his ADP. I don't know if he makes your top 12 here, but um, I think he's got a little bit of rushing upside. We saw it in some of these preseason games. How do you feel about Caleb?
Yeah, he does make my top 12. I don't know if you can see the jersey a little
Hey,
bit
there we go.
bottom in the corner, but I am a Bears fan, so I'm so excited about Caleb. But even being unbiased, yeah, I think he does have above average rushing upside, and I think the weapons group is phenomenal. So I mean, I'll just talk about the last two together. At 11, I actually have the rival Jordan Love. I think he's
Okay.
a very good quarterback. I think the offense could be very good. They just have a lot of upside there with Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and then you have Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs. It just seems like so many options to where this offense could be phenomenal. You also have Josh Jacobs, who should help move the ball. And I think Jordan Love proved himself to where he has a good floor ceiling combination. I think he is kind of like a discount CJ Stroud. Just slightly worse offense, probably a slightly worse passer, but it's going to be a pass-happy offense. Now for Caleb, I just think that the Bears have a fantastic situation. You have DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, who I'm still a believer in, and Rome Odunze, who I was super high on coming out of college, Cole Kmet. I mean, DeAndre Swift is a pass catcher. Everything is set up for him. I'm not a, huge fan of Shane Waldron, the OC, but I think he's solid enough to where it's not a significant downgrade to anything the Bears have had in the past. And I think Caleb is truly a generational, if not close to a generational talent with solid rushing upside. So that upside alone, when I'm not going to rank a quarterback at 12 just based on the fact that it's maybe safer a guy like Purdy or Kirk Cousins or Tua will finish there. I want to actually draft a guy there that has the ability to, move up all the way to like quarterback like 7, quarterback 8, or even, top 5 if the nuts outcome breaks. And,
I like it.
just goes all right for him.
I like it. Yeah, he's pretty exciting out there, man. So awesome. You're at least the second Bears fan I've had on the show. So good luck this season. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had Dave Kluge on, and he had a take about Cole Kmet popping off, but it's that was before preseason, and it seems like there's just not enough targets for him. Maybe next year. I like he's got the prototypical size and all that, but with Everett there too, it's just so much going on. This is all about Caleb, not about the receivers getting their numbers. This is about making sure Caleb is successful this year. So. Looking forward to seeing what they do, man. And Roll, he said that's a solid top 12. Personally, don't like A-Rich too much though. Yeah, man, a little bit of risk there. Tailspin Geek says must just be a Dak or Cowboys fan. Tend to reach on him. And yeah, before we move on to the next position, I'm just curious. Just so that people know, are you at all worried about any of these matchups week 1? Like if Jordan Love has to play against the Eagles and that's a supposedly good defense. You've got some others like the Dak versus the Browns. They had the number 1 defensive player of the year and a top defense there. Any of these matchups scare you off? Or you're just starting them and crossing your fingers.
Yeah, week 1, I'm not really looking too much into it. Like at the bottom, I might maybe I'd move Jordan Love, but even though the Eagles have a good defense, it's projected to be a 48.5 over under. So high scoring game. It really shouldn't matter there. I mean, week 1, I kind of just want to roll with what I got rolling into the year. You don't want to look too much into that unless there's a guy that is at the bottom going against a top 3 defense with one of the worst over unders. And then you have a guy right next to him going against one of the worst defenses with a great over under. In that case, yeah, I'll move him, but for the most, I don't think that's really happened to almost anyone that I've looked at week 1. So pretty similar to my draft rankings.
Awesome, man. So we're gonna do a quick one. We're gonna do tight ends real quick, and then we'll get to the other good ones. So let's try to fly through this tight end section here. Who do you got as your tight end one?
Yeah, my tight end one this year is Sam Laporta. I know.
There we go.
Don't worry. I'll say I've Kelsey it too. I think the two are very close, but I would just rather have the ascending player in Laporta, and he still has basically the same situation. I think people are kind of talking about that touchdown regression, but I think he's just good at scoring touchdowns. I think that's going to stay similar this year. And two, we're also not really accounting for the fact that tight ends typically don't do much in year one anyway.
Mhm.
So for him to be an exception, you have to assume that he's going to develop a lot and get even better. So if he can keep that touchdown like right anywhere near to what it was last year, I think he could be phenomenal and have a Travis Kelce level type year, like 15 points per game. And if not, I think that if the the touchdowns drop, I think his overall skill set will get better. Receptions, yards will go up to where it will kind of offset that. And I think he can finish near the tight end one anyway. Now with Kelce, he is the descending asset. And I'm just a little scared of his age. Obviously, it's so hard to, predict him to fall off completely just based on that one factor because we haven't actually seen it. But you also have Xavier Worthy coming in. You have Hollywood Brown coming in. Rasheed Rice in year two. I think there's just more target competition. And Mahomes isn't going to need to lean heavily on him. Plus, you saw last year they kind of almost load managed him for the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if at his age they do something like that near the end of the season as well, which obviously would be horrible for your fantasy football playoffs.
Yeah, that's the big concern. One thing I've been trying to do is just at this point, like I can't control all of that. I am buying into that a little bit. I'm a little concerned, but I just feel like Kelsey's still putting up some of the highest points per game of any of these tight ends. So if it's a drop off for Kelsey, that's one thing. But relative to the other tight ends, he's still better. But for what that means for me drafting wise, is it means I still can't reach on Kelsey. Like I'll just try to take him later, but I still believe he could be one of the top ones. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people I've seen with Laporta tight end one, and he definitely deserves mention there. So how about at the 3 spot? Who do you got?
3, I have Dalton Kincaid, and I feel like I'm pretty high in Kincaid versus consensus. But you're getting him tied to who my quarterback one in fantasy is, Josh Allen. Even if that's somewhat because of the rushing upside, I think Allen is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's a clear top 5 guy. And you're getting him with basically no one else there. You have Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir. Keon Coleman has a lot of risk. So I think Dalton Kincaid is the clear guy. Flash is a rookie. Now, Dawson Knox did come back, but they restructured his contract to basically nothing. I think about Kincaid is I would be worried if he was that traditional tight end that him and Knox were basically going to compete for like the same role. But Kincaid's a guy where you want to draft him in fantasy because he is like a cheat code wide receiver. They play him as a big slot per se. So he's really going to run a lot of routes as Josh Allen's number 1 receiver, but you can put him in as your tight end. So I'm super high in that. I feel like we've been waiting for the emergence of anyone tied to Josh Allen. Like years before, we were going nuts about Gabe Davis and his 5 touchdown game. Yeah. And now we have a young emerging star in Kincaid, and we're just like, he's okay. I'm on that because I truly think Kincaid is one of the most talented tight ends in the league, and he has a fantastic situation now.
Awesome. Yeah. Who they're going to give the ball to? Like, it shouldn't be that hard. Sometimes fantasy is not that hard. But again, guys, do not reach on these tight ends in your drafts. I know you get to that point where, I got my receiver and running back filled out, and now I need a tight end. Like, just be careful because I did have some guys on recently, South Harmon Fantasy FF, who, they look at the wins over replacement, and they have seen some numbers where, tight end is it's just not, you don't have the same upside with some of these other positions. So we still like these tight ends, but just make sure you're not overdrafting them and missing out on a lot of other value. So who do you got at the 4th spot?
So 4, I have Mark Andrews. I think that's where a lot of people are going to have him flipped with Kincaid, or even I have McBride at 5. I think people will have those in a little different order. But I do like Andrews a bit. You have Zay Flowers coming into year 2, and Lamar is just a quarterback to where he's great, but he's not going to give you the same passing ability as any of those other dudes. Plus, Mark Andrews is just he's not super old, obviously. I mean, he's 28 years old, but he's not really he's coming off an injury, 28 years old. That's not screaming ascending talent to me versus Kincaid. Now McBride, I think he was very good at the end of last year. I'm really a big fan of McBride. Really, the concern is how good is Marvin Harrison going to be, and is Kyler Murray going to be? Even if I think Kyler Murray is safe and a good fantasy option because even if he's not the same as before his injury passing the ball, he still is going to have good rushing upside. But you kind of have to bank on, 1, how good is Marv going to be and how effective is he going to be? And 2, how close to prime Kyler are we going to see him? But that said, McBride was very good at drawing targets last year. I mean, people are forgetting that when he was drafted a few years back, he was the number 1 tight end in that class as a second-round pick. So it's not like he's coming out of nowhere. He has good pedigree. He's a good prospect. And that's probably my top 5 in really any order that you want to put it. I can understand.
I like it. Yeah. All right. Let's keep rolling. So who do you got at 6? And let me ask you, first of all, I'll say Roll said Kincaid's is TE2 in Dynasty. Yeah, not mad at that. And is there like a tier drop off for you? So you just said this is a tier for you, basically. That's how I interpret it at 5. Is there like a next tier, or is it pretty even for you after this?
Yeah, McBride, it's a small teardrop. So I have McBride at 46, and then I have my next guy, tight end 6, Kyle Pitts at 54. I know we've been burned every year by Kyle Pitts, but let's not forget that he had one of the best rookie tight end seasons of all time, and he's only 23 years old. A lot of tight ends don't typically do anything until they're 24, 25 anyway. So I feel like we're kind of unfairly knocking him for not really doing much in the last 2 years. But that's nothing really against what he's actually done. And that's just based on what we expected of him, right? So I think that when the bar is for a tight end to break out or produce when they're at minimum 24, 25, anything he's done before then is just an added bonus. And we shouldn't take that away from them. And the added bonus here is that we saw him be an elite prospect, the highest drafted tight end of all time, and have a amazing rookie year. So
yeah,
I do kind of have that to lean back on. He was also banged up a little last year. Seems like that's fixed. But yeah, now you have Arthur Smith gone, who I think is just is terrible. And then you have Kirk Cousins coming in, who, you might be a little scared about, but I'm also super big on Michael Penix. So I think everything's leaning in the direction for Pitts to crush this year. And you're even getting him at a little bit of a discount just based on the recency bias, in my opinion.
I like it. You nailed it. Don't be scared of Pitts. Who do you got at 7?
7, I have Kittle, and I think he's just always just great. He kind of gives you what he gives you, and that's going to be some dud weeks and then some 30-point weeks. I don't think that's going to change much. He kind of just is what he is, and that's around a top 6 tight end. Here I have him at 7, but I think that this is kind of where the good tight ends line down to this year. And then at 8, I have Evan Ingram, who I think he was good last year. I'm just a little worried about Brian Thomas Jr. taking over that Calvin Ridley role and drawing a lot more receptions. And then Christian Kirk playing the whole year. You kind of looking at Evan Ingram as the tight end 3 with Trevor Lawrence, who's good, but he's not even really a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion, yet. So there's risk there as well.
Yeah. Hey, he had like a 2 TD game in preseason. You can't take too much stock in that. He was like the best target out there, probably. Yeah, man. I think here's where do we have Ferguson next, or do you not have Ferguson next?
I don't. I have Ferguson as a top 12 guy, though. I will. Okay. All kind of run. These guys are all kind of similar. So at 9, I actually have Brock Bowers, and I know I just said typically tight ends don't produce in year 1, But I think Bowers just is he just seems like such a pro-ready guy to where he stayed a decent amount at Georgia. He was a phenomenal prospect there. Kyle Pitts is a better prospect, but he's close to being one of the best prospects we've seen in the last 10 years at tight end. So I don't think it's a good situation, but it's definitely not bad in terms of tight ends just struggle to kind of get that ball in year one. It seems like from the preseason usage to where they have a plan to get him the ball. Devontae Adams is still great, but he is 31 years old. And there's even a possibility that he could want out midway through the year. Like, if you watch the receiver documentary, if you just see anything on Twitter, it's all Devontae Adams does not want to be here. So I think there's that upside for Bowers being the number one target halfway through the year. And at that point, if Bowers has, the bye week to develop and, just get even more ingrained with the coaching staff, I think he could be a true league winner. And at tight end, after typically, like we said, these top six guys aren't really going to move the needle. I'm not just going to take a guy like, I'm not even really thrilled about taking a guy like David Njoku, who I have at 10, who I'm just not super pumped about. I want a guy that is going to move the needle. If not, okay, I can get a guy like, Dallas Goedert or Cole Kmet or Pat Freiermuth even off waivers that are, going to give you basically the same production as that tight end 12. So that's what I'm thinking with Bowers.
Yeah, I like that. Just a little upside there. And yeah, I mean, I've been concerned about players around Devontae Adams usually just get kind of dwarfed in targets. It's like a black hole of targets for him, man. He gets everything, but you never know. He's getting up there. Anything could happen, man. Roll said that's his tight end 8 in Dynasty or in Redraft. And hey, shout out Bayou Bengals. He stopped by the booth as well. Good seeing you at the FF Expo, man. And hey, we're excited for the season, man. Good luck to you and everybody in these leagues. So who do you got at the? So it sounded like you said you had Njoku next. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'll just run by the last three. I have Njoku at 10. Not super exciting pick, but again, I think the upside case with him is he was good last year, so there's kind of a more of a safer floor. And also, I'm not sure it's going to happen, but obviously Watson does have some upside. There's not really too much target competition outside of Amari Cooper. Maybe Jerry Jeudy is something, which is why I'm not super high on him. But Njoku was a pretty decent prospect too, and I think he's a good talent. So I'm willing to bet on him over my tight end 11, Jake Ferguson, just because I'm not super sold on the talent. I don't know if that offense can repeat what they did last year. Again, I'm not super, super high on Dak. I think that while Ferguson is going to be solid, I just don't see him ever being a good enough actual player to move the needle and be a difference maker. I think he's just going to get bombarded with targets, and that's going to give him a safe floor. I think he's going to be a top 12 tight end pretty much no matter what. I wouldn't even be surprised if, say, Bowers or Njoku bust, and he's up there as tight end 8, tight end 9. I just don't think that's really going to move the needle for me, so I'm not super excited on drafting him. And tight end 12, again, with the same philosophy, I have TJ Hawkinson because, okay, he might not play the first 6 weeks of the season, but again, if I'm drafting, I have tight end 13, Dalton Schultz. Is the difference between Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert or Cole Kmet really that big? It's not, and these are all guys you can get off waivers for the first 6 weeks of the year. You draft Hawkinson, you stash him, and if things work out, stash him on your IR. And if things work out, you're getting a guy that I would have put as my tight end 3 or 4 had he not been injured, even with the situation. So
yeah, and guys, Hawkinson right now on multiple platforms, you can draft him and put him into your IR and then pick up another guy. I saw him go. I got him in the final round of a draft recently, and then just picked up my defense after that. Sometimes that can happen in some places. He's not projected to start until I think I saw 7 weeks. Maybe the third month of the season, something like that. So it could be a late surge, but you could just stash him, see what happens. Yeah, and I have Njoku. I did a trade with Fantasy Good Sports recently, just straight up Mark Andrews for Njoku. I mean, this guy, Fantasy Good Sports, is all in on David Njoku. Thinks he could have a top tight end one finish season, as in the number one tight end in all of football. So I've seen some good takes out there. The offense reports are they're actually building plays around Njoku, and he's at minimum their top 2 target. So it could be a good season for him. And I like Ferguson just because, like we said earlier, I don't see a lot of other options there in Dallas. Okay, so we flew by those, and let's. I think running back might be something we could fly through as well. So,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about the? All right, let's just say Christian McCaffrey won. Are we good there? Are
Yeah.
we good
Yeah.
there? Okay.
We don't really need
All
to
right.
touch on that too much.
Yeah, he can save us some time and we'll go CMC at the 1 spot. So how about at the 2 spot? Who you got there?
I'm going Bijan, and then my 3 is also Brees Hall. I think that if you want to switch the order, you can. I just feel a lot more comfortable about the Falcons offense and Kirk Cousins there. I think that Aaron Rodgers is just such a wild card. He is 41 years old, coming off an ACL injury. I know Kirk Cousins is coming off one as well, but he's 36 years old. That's a 5-year difference. Plus, like I was saying with Pitts, worst case scenario, Cousins misses time, and you have Penix coming in, who I think will be fine. I'm not so sure we can say the same about Jordan Travis or anyone else the Jets bring out there. So obviously, I'm not drafting based on injury, but I like Zach Robinson as well, coming from the McVay tree. All the talk has been just how can we get Bijan the ball? And I think that he's the more talented running back as well. I mean, just based on draft capital, Bijan was a top 10 pick, and Brees was good, but he was a 2nd-round pick. Not saying that's right, but I think just purely talent-wise, I think Bijan's better. I think he has a slightly safer and slightly better overall situation, so that's my tiebreaker, but they're neck and neck with me. I think I go to my overall rankings. I have Bijan at 5, Brees at 6.
All right, and this is a revenge game. Bijan Robinson versus Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh. Well, they'll be in Atlanta, so good luck, Arthur Smith. He's gonna get a lot of boos, I bet. All right, who you got at the 3 spot? Is it Brees?
Yeah, 3 I have Brees, and then 4 I have Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm actually pretty high in Gibbs this year. I think that
speak on Gibbs. You got good on Brees already.
Yeah, Gibbs is 10th overall for me just because I'm expecting David Montgomery to take a step back. Last year, people are kind of saying, oh, Montgomery is the clear red zone back, yada, yada, yada. But after week 10, when, Dave Montgomery went down in the middle of the season, you saw an emergence from Gibbs there. But after week 10, after the bye week, once Montgomery came back and was fully healthy, Gibbs had 51% of the red zone snaps. Or I think it was, snaps. So he was actually getting more of the red zone snaps, even though it's like by 1%. But it wasn't clearly Montgomery. And I don't know if a lot of that's because of the injury. But I think a lot of that is just because Gibbs is the much more versatile weapon. And he also got some pretty bad touchdown luck going down at the 1 a few times last year. I obviously am not going to predict that to happen again. I think Montgomery is just going to be used more as the real-life good NFL grinder. They'll use him between the 20s, get those 3-4 yard pickups. But I think they're going to deploy Gibbs for basically every, fantasy relevant option where good passing situations around the goal line because he gives them the ability to pass the ball and the explosiveness to hit the hole and run the ball inside the 20s. Just pretty low on Montgomery, which kind of makes me a little higher than consensus on Gibbs.
Yeah, I hear that. You want the defense guessing. They don't want to just think, oh, it's David Montgomery. They're probably running it up the gut. Yeah, man. All right, cool. And shout out Fizzle Dollars. I appreciate everybody jumping in here. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are just now stopped by for the first time. And good luck in these drafts coming up, y'all. Who do you got at the 5 spot here?
Yeah, 5 I have Jonathan Taylor. I think playing alongside Anthony Richardson is not really going to be an issue. If anything, it is going to help him from an efficiency perspective. Obviously, he will vulture some rushing touchdowns, but at the same time, when he goes to hand the ball off, you have to be worried that Richardson's going to keep the ball. So it's going to freeze the linebackers, give Taylor some additional yards there. So I think that should balance itself out. People are just kind of forgetting that he was the running back 1 overall, the 101 just a few years back. You have Shane Steichen, who did amazing things with the Eagles running back. And Taylor is clearly the best running back that he's ever coached talent-wise. So really big on him this year as well. I like Taylor a decent amount.
Yeah, and we're running low on workhorse guys, I mean, don't fade the rare commodity, rare asset that we got here in Taylor, who has all this work to himself. We saw Zach Moss be great in this offense. So let's see how they can do with a healthy year 2 A-Rich. Here in the 7th spot, how are we feeling?
Yeah,
6th spot.
Yeah, 6, I have Saquon. I like Saquon a bit. I'm just not quite there putting him over Taylor. And that's because, he's not as young. He is I think he's 27 right now.
Yeah, with some injuries,
Yep.
So not a full clean bill of health, and new team. There's some stats that players change a new team, it can be rough. And now he's getting a rushing quarterback for the first time.
Right. Yeah, rushing quarterback, injury history, not super young. Plus, you have a ton of targets to go around, which is how he wins. He was really only amazing in fantasy when he had that absurd target year with the Giants because no one else was there. But now you have A.J. Brown. Now you have Devonta Smith. Even Dallas Goedert is solid. I mean, Jahan Dotson even just got traded there, who's probably not going to be much, but it's something. And Jalen Hurts, while people are saying, oh, that narrative of quarterbacks don't pass the ball to the running backs is not true, because we saw, Saquon Barkley catching wheel routes in practice. That's not what I'm saying. I think he will be involved as a pass catcher on those designated plays. But what it does concern me is on the Giants, when they had like Eli Manning or whoever they had before, Daniel Jones. I honestly forget. It was just so bad. But that quarterback is willing to dump the ball off, where Jalen Hurts, he doesn't need to just get the ball out right away in the flat. He'll take it himself and run the ball, which kind of limits those kind of crappy dump off plays that Barkley was used to in New York.
Yeah, man. It's going to be so interesting. There's a lot of new pieces there just with Jason Kelsey leaving. The dynamic is just so different. Best running back they've had, but a big drop off at center. We'll see how they divvy that up. So here at the 7th spot, and I will say with Barkley, the Eagles have always loved having that pass catching running back. So I'm curious if one of the other guys gets that work, or if because Barkley has that, they finally don't divvy that up as much as they used to. So we'll see. So yeah, how about 7 here?
Yeah, I'll kind of run by 7 through 9. They're all pretty similar for me. I have Kyren at 7, and I think that I just don't want to overthink it. It seems like Blake Corum was drafted to be a premier handcuff because we have seen a extensive injury history with Kyren. Obviously missed time his first year, only played in 12 games last year. But I think the Rams offense is still going to be very good. I'm big on Stafford, so kind of just seems like let's not overthink it. He is a good running back. He should have close to bell cow level workload. I don't think Corum's really going to make it a committee or eat into anything more than at max 30% of the work. Then at 8, I have ETN kind of similar as well. Is that bell cow-ish back? Not big on Tank Bigsby. I think the Jaguars offense has some upside to be good. And ETN has just been very good every year in the past. He has been a little touchdown dependent, but I think that he was great at the start of last year when the Jaguars offense and Lawrence was rolling. Now he kind of fell off near the end of last year because Lawrence and everyone went down. But I'm expecting Lawrence to be healthy and even better than last year. So I think they'll support ETN. And at 9, I have Henry because, again, same mold of where he has some red flags with the injury, but he is a bell cow profile. He's going to get a ton of touchdowns with the Ravens playing next to rushing quarterback. Kind of has the same positives and drawbacks as I mentioned with JT. but it just kind of feels foolish to fade Henry when he has done nothing but produce so far.
Yeah, on a bad team, and this is the best team ever. And yeah, Lamar always leads them in rushing. Just give me one season. It's redraft. Just give me one good Derrick Henry on Lamar season. That would be so awesome. He could just go off. Ravens, that's like my second team. That's where my family's from. Just took my grandmother to the airport. She's headed back to Baltimore. And yeah, man, we're hoping for an awesome Derrick Henry season. Okay, so 10 spot. How are we feeling?
Yeah, 10, I'm going to go with Devon Achane. I know he's one of the more polarizing names in fantasy football. He's one of the players I mentioned that I watched the film on, and I was super impressed. I think the concerns with him are obviously, the size, him missing time last year, but I think there are a few and obviously you also have Mostert and then Jalen Wright, even who I'm a fan of. Now, the thing is, I'm low on Mostert because we haven't seen him stay healthy at all until these last 2 years. And now he's 33 years old, and you're telling me that this is when he's finally going to stay healthy? Or
yeah, he is. Of course.
I'm not buying that personally. I've been hurt by Mostert in the past too many times. And I've had to pick up Jeff Wilson Jr., who I will say he did me right, but still. I think that Mostert is not going to be the same guy he was last year. I think Achane getting another year under his belt is going to I think the size. It seems like reports say he's bulked up. And I honestly do believe that because you're going from a college level lifestyle, college level campus to an NFL real training program facility. So gaining weight really isn't like the craziest thing to think of when you have a young running back. And then he just looks so good. He's efficient. He was fantastic on film. It seems like he's going to catch the ball a lot more. And I just see him doing the little things right that he needs to do to become a 3-down level back, or at least a more than a one-trick pony as an explosive runner. And again, I don't know if you could tell by now, but based on the rushing quarterback philosophy and that, I'm just shooting for upside. Yeah. And Devon Achane truly is one of, by far, compared to anyone in this range, maybe after RB, especially after 7, he could be the running back 1 overall if things go right pretty easily.
Yeah, because he's in a similar scenario to Gibbs where the quarterback is not rushing, period. It won't happen. Kyron Williams, the quarterback is not rushing at all. So, maybe Trevor Etienne's got a little Trevor, rushes going on. But, there's not that many of these top guys that are in that scenario. And that's a huge upside spot for those dump-off passes. That might be there every single game. Hopefully you don't have to rely on Jeff Wilson this year. We'll see how the roster cuts go, and if he's still on the team. If they cut Jeff Wilson, I feel like a team like the Cowboys will pick him up immediately. They're so desperate. But you do got to worry about Jalen Wright, guys. So there's still a lot of competition for a chain, no matter what. So number 11, and Steve, let me know how we're doing with the schedule. We talked about maybe going beyond the 12. Might want to stick with the 12 here. How are you feeling?
Yeah, let's probably stick with the 12 so we can get some more a last good discussion on the receivers as well.
All right, let's do it. So let's close out the final 2 spots. Who do you got the final 2 here at running back?
Yeah, so at 11, I have Pacheco, and I think a lot of people are super high on him, and I understand that. I know ESPN ADP is going in like the mid-second round. I'm not there yet just because I think that it is underrated how good he was as a pass catcher last year. And with Jerick McKinnon leaving, he clearly looked like the 3-down back. That's how they deployed him in the playoffs. And at the end of the year, we haven't seen him draw more than 50 targets yet, so I'm not sure I feel comfortable putting him quite that high. And it is a pass-heavy offense, so I wonder how much the offense will actually be ran through him. And even at the goal line, the Chiefs pass the ball near the goal line at one of the highest rates in the NFL. So you say they get down to the red zone and then pound it with Pacheco? Not necessarily. So I think he's very good, and I want to have a piece of that offense. I'm just not taking him above his ADP because I think that his his ceiling is already pretty close to where he's being drafted. And at 12, I have Rachaad White, kind of similar situation to where he's a 3-down back. And he's actually a very good pass catcher. But I think the question is with him, can he actually be efficient running the ball? I'm just not big on Bucky Irving. I don't think he's going to do anything. The Buccaneers are pretty solid. And I just don't really see how Rachaad White doesn't repeat at what he did last year. Pretty much exact same situation. And I think he's a good enough talent to where all he needs to do is just get a little bit better at running the ball, be a little bit more efficient, and he'll be just fine. And he could easily have another top 5 to 8 RB finish.
Yeah, he produced with Fournette there. He produced when all they had was a rookie behind him last season, and it's the same scenario here. It's just a rookie, Bucky Irving. So he still has that same opportunity to produce. It's going to be all on him. That offense last year was running very efficiently under Dave Canales, who some are crediting as like a QB whisperer and good for a lot of offenses. So now with Canales gone, we'll see if they can keep that going. But yeah, Rachaad White was, top 2, I think, in running back receptions this past season. So I have him a lot higher. I think in the top 5 is where I've got him. So we'll see what he can do because if it's PPR, I think he's going to have a great year, man. But all right, let's move on to the wide receivers, and then we'll get you up out of here. So top 10, are you going with the same number 1 from last year, or are you switching it up?
I'm going to CeeDee Lamb, assuming obviously everything goes well with the contract. We kind of talked about before that I don't think the Cowboys have
CeeDee Lamb just signed. I'm hearing from Elijah Herring.
Really?
He's saying breaking news.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Let's go. Breaking news. We're live.
Nice.
Breaking news. CeeDee Lamb has signed. Let's look at it. ESPN. 136 million, a 4-year deal, according to Adam Schefter, makes him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Let's go.
Nice.
All right.
That answers my question. And yeah, he's definitely my top receiver. Even before, they really had no choice but to pay him because they have no one else. He has all the leverage in that situation. But yeah, again, it kind of just goes back to my Laporta Kelsey argument. And I think this is even a little more clear, but I'd rather take the ascending talent that should be still in a good offense. You have a good quarterback, little target competition versus Tyreek Hill at 2. Well, I think Tyreek is very good. He is, a little older. He is 31 now or 30. He's 30 and playing next to Jalen Waddle. So you always have that chance on a week-to-week basis that Waddle could pop off and be the one for the week, and they could go back and forth a little bit as Hill gets older and doesn't, maybe they don't need to rely on him as much for the entire season. Where Lamb, I think it's just pretty clear that he's going to be the one every single week, and he's going to get the wide receiver 1 targets, just a lot safer floor and ceiling. But I still do like Tyreek Hill. Again, he's kind of one of those guys where it's like he's just done it for so long that I can't bet against him.
So Tyreek, you got at 2, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, I got Tyreek Hill in a redraft at the 105 a couple days ago. I was feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Tyreek Lamb. I got too much CeeDee Lamb on my brain. I can't even type. Yeah, man. So exciting news. Shout out to Elijah Herring for helping us out with that breaking news. We're locked in on these rankings, and but we had CD number 1. Nothing changes there. He's not holding out, so that's great news. And awesome, man. Cool. So I'm gonna change the names of the channel real quick, but let us know who you got at the 3 spot.
Yeah, so I'll go 3 and 4 real quick. I have 3 Jamar Chase, 4 Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I think you can really put them in whatever order you want. It just depends the kind of drafter you are, the kind of build that you're looking to create. With Jamar, he has more of an upside case. I think that's pretty obvious playing next to Joe Burrow. Just that week-to-week big playability where he can score and pop off for 55 points any given week. Maybe some weeks he'll have more of a dud and only score 10, where Amon-Ra is pretty consistent for 13, 14, 15 points at minimum every week. but he doesn't have those 50-point weeks. Instead, it's more, 20, which is great. But I personally just like chasing the ceiling, because what happens if, like the sports books are thinking, Joe Burrow has an MVP level season, throws 40, 50 touchdown passes, then Jamar could have a, spike year in that category, and he could be the wide receiver 1 overall. I think he has wide receiver 1 overall upside. I think with Amon-Ra, just based on his low ADOT play style, Goff isn't going to sling the ball as much. I think I don't really see a path for him becoming the wide receiver 1 overall. I think he's safe and a very good pick. I like Amon-Ra, but personally, my philosophy and my structure is just chase the ceiling within reason.
Yeah. I love Amon-Ra. I was able to pair Tyreek in the first round and Amon-Ra in the second round last season. Can't do that anymore. Guys just been too consistent, and the quarterback just has to rely on him for the most part. But some of those weapons are kind of coming around. But even if a Jameson Williams pops off, I still think Amon-Ra is going to get a huge workload. And yeah, I love Chase just being that main target there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Jamar Chase signing pretty soon, because this is one of those classic scenarios where the CeeDee Lamb agent might be waiting for Jamar Chase agent to get that contract done so they can have a little bit more leverage in the negotiation, even if it's just by an extra 100K or whatever these guys are getting, just to be the number one guy. So look out for that Jamar Chase signing pretty soon. He's I think a year younger, but he's eligible if they want to make it happen. And it actually seemed like Jamar was more so the one who was leaning towards holding out than a CeeDee Lamb. So pretty interesting here. And I just updated the thumbnail here, or slash title. So just for new folks coming in, just wanted to give it one more update. CeeDee Lamb signs with the Dallas Cowboys and gets an extension for $136 million over 4 years. Second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. I don't know if you're able to find what those guarantees are. Sometimes that trickles out a little bit later. But anyway, so far that's according to Adam Schefter. And yeah, man, big news here that we've been waiting on. So Cowboys will actually be able to practice maybe again. I mean, they may still want to get Dak paid. Do you think this signals Cowboys may get the Dak signing done? Any thoughts there before we move on?
Yeah, I think that it doesn't seem like there's as much urgency, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of wanted to go lock the 2 up. That would definitely make sense.
Yeah. All right. Who do you got at the number 5 spot?
Yeah, so 5 and 6 are also back-to-back for me in my overall rankings. I have Justin Jefferson at 5, Puka Nacua at 6. With Jefferson, I still think he is the best real-life NFL receiver, but obviously you have the bad quarterback play with Sam Darnold, you have target competition with Jordan Addison, and then you have TJ Hawkinson coming in down the stretch. So a little bit of target competition, down the line. It's just, what are you going to get with Sam Darnold, who is a much worse quarterback than obviously all those guys in the top 4? And we know how good Jefferson is, but we've also seen very talented players like Garrett Wilson, obviously a much worse example, just be completely boxed out by their quarterback play. Now, I'm not saying Jefferson is going to have a 12-point per game season, but I just don't know if he has the upside to be a top 3 guy or the wide receiver 1 overall had he been with Kirk Cousins. And then Puka Nacua, he's the guy that I just really like this year. I think that he's the clear one in that offense. Cooper Kupp, well, yes, he was banged up, and people are saying, oh, he's coming back fully healthy. Yeah, I don't think that really means anything, because if anything, turning 31 years old, coming off an injury, is going to be more hurtful than, that getting that recovery is going to be. I think it's an overall decline for Cooper Kupp. And Puka Nacua, people are, talking about, he has target competition. That's going to hurt him. Well, let's also take into the fact that he was arguably the best rookie receiver of all time. So yeah. Where you have that added target competition, you also have him getting better. And I expect him, with him improving in year 2, he's going to naturally draw more of that target share just by being a great NFL wide receiver. Plus, I also like Matthew Stafford as a quarterback.
Yeah, man. Oh man, I just want to see if he keeps it going. I'm hoping Cooper Kupp still contributes before riding off in the sunset, but this is potentially Puka's team going forward. Even after they replace Stafford. Who do you got at the 7 spot?
Yeah. So these next guys are actually all very similar, 7
Okay.
through 10. I have them basically back to back. Garrett Wilson at 7, AJ Brown at 8, Marvin Harrison Jr. at 9, Drake London at 10. So starting out with Garrett Wilson, I think that people were ranking him here last year, and I'm saying, okay, I didn't like getting him in, like the middle of the first round, but I can see the case for him being the 12th overall pick, 13th overall pick, late first, early second round, because he is a phenomenal talent. He's playing with Aaron Rodgers, who is not, amazing anymore, but he's still good enough to support that clear number one guy. We've seen it with Devontae Adams, even in Green Bay. And what's changed since last year? Okay, he got injured and towards ACL, but it's not like that really does anything for a 41-year-old quarterback who's not going to be running the ball. Yeah, there's a little risk with that, I will say.
Yeah, the Achilles. Yeah,
the Achilles, right. There is a little risk, but overall, I don't think his situation has changed too much. I think bringing in Mike Williams actually will create more space. Malachi Corley is a gadget guy, so not concerned about any of the other competition. AJ Brown's a guy where he just has done it for so many years in a row. He has a good floor and ceiling upside case, especially on a week-to-week basis. He could pop off for 30, 40 points we've seen in the past. Just obviously playing next to Devonta Smith, not a super high volume passing offense. Jalen Hurts isn't a amazing passing quarterback. Then with Marvin Harrison Jr., truly a generational prospect. Again, I like Kyler Murray, so that also means that I kind of like his wide receiver 1, Marv. Yep. I think that he's just going to be the clear guy week 1, draw a ton of targets, command that volume based on how good of a prospect he is.
And I missed the 10. Who'd you have at 10?
Yeah, at 10, I have Drake London. Again, pretty similar to Marv. I think the argument against Marv is, well, he's only a rookie. Drake London's still pretty young too, and he hasn't really actually produced, so I don't think he's any more safe than Marv. But again, good situation. He's also a fantastic. He's not just a good prospect. He was the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, so he's a great talent. Playing next to Kyle Pitts should open up some space, and you don't have any other actual wide receivers taking targets from him. So super big on that Falcons offense.
Historically, these top 8 picks like a Drake London and Marv, they have good seasons, and London's definitely due with Kirk Cousins joining the fold. So yeah, man, round us out with the final 2 that you got here for us.
Yeah, so 11, I have Devontae Adams. I think it's a pick where if the Raiders' offense is better than expected, he could also be better than expected. I'm not sure Gardner Minshew is going to be the answer, but he was solid for Michael Pittman, so we'll see how that shakes out. Again, just a super good floor as well based on the target share that he's always got. He was very efficient last year, and then maybe you have the chance that he gets traded to a contender and then could skyrocket up boards in the second half of the year. Now, to round things out, 12, I'm really stuck on my wide receiver 12. So if you want to share yours as well, I would love to hear that. But I have Deebo Samuel right now just because I think that he is the best wide receiver for fantasy football in that 49ers offense that has just been so good. He has the ability to, break games on a week-to-week basis, and he has that rushing upside. With Christian McCaffrey kind of dealing with that calf injury, maybe you think that they go, okay, it's not good. CMC's already banged up. Let's kind of lean on our wide receiver / running back that we paid that money to do, and then take the load a little bit away from McCaffrey, at least from the pure running game. Maybe let's just use him more as a passer. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I just want to attach a good player who a few years ago scored 21 points per game, still was very good last year, scoring about 16 points per game as a floor. And yeah, I'm just big on that 49ers offense, and I want to get probably, in my opinion, the best fantasy option, even if Ayuk might be a better real life receiver, better route runner, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and you had asked how I feel about it. I mean, I like the Debo spot. One thing I haven't been mentioning is, or I've been wanting to ask is like, hey, if like I do think Ayuk stays there, but just because of the Washington trade and there's still the maybe, Ayuk is traded. Like I was thinking when we were talking George Kittle, does that boost him? And with Debo Samuel, I do think that would boost him. I mean, we've seen some really great seasons from Debo. So I could see it really going well in that scenario. I mean, previously, when you have everybody healthy, including this, CMC, it's tough for all of these guys to just have these, crazy numbers and things like that. So, I still have been kind of like something you've been saying earlier is I've been taking a swing on Malik Neighbors. That's a guy that I like going for some upside. And I mentioned it right off the jump. The Daniel Jones thing might hurt his Malik Neighbors stock a little bit since it's just not looking great. Just going to be based on raw target volume and all that, and me hoping that he hits. I've got a model called the Phenom Finder, and that's where I'm able to see guys like Malik Neighbors. They have just such an incredible athletic profile that it's hard for me to want to pass on that. But yeah, like for me, I would take him just since Debo's a little bit older. He's had so many of those injuries and games where he's just missing. So I would just take kind of a shot there on Malik Neighbors instead. And I mean, there's still some other guys that crush like a Mike Evans this past season, but he's a little bit older, so I'll still take a little gamble there. I'm not willing to take Chris Olave. I know some people may have him in that top 12. I'm not ready to do that. But yeah, Debo's a decent pick here. I even like Jalen Waddle just in case that Tyreek goes down, because when Waddle was a rookie and he was the only guy there, just saw so many targets, and you see how they want to use these guys. So I see a lot of upside with him as well. And yeah, other than that, yeah, man, I think we got it covered, dude. Man, got through the top 12 at each position, and I'm feeling pretty good going into the season. That we've just got a lot of talent, maybe more than ever in football, man. So, dude, again, appreciate you coming on. Let the people know again what you're working on and where they can find you. And real quickly, wanted to let you know that after that, I want to get a hot take from you. But first, just give people the breakdown on where they can find you, and then I'll ask the hot take question after that.
Yeah, you can really just find all my work on the fantasytradingroom.com. I would just kind of mention the membership part as well. So if you guys want to check out the membership on fftradingroom.com, it's a 30-day free trial. I'll put the link. I can just put the link in your chat as well. If you go to fftradingroom.com, just click the premium tab. It'll bring you to the pricing plans. And there you can check out our cutting edge draft simulator, our 2024 fantasy football draft guide. We do dynasty rookie draft guides, top 250 dynasty and redraft rankings. We do DM access with like live draft consulting, trade advice, personalized roster reviews, and then the whole 9 yards in season with waiver wire and then weekly rankings as well. So that's my spiel for that.
Yeah, you could
And then,
drop that
yeah,
in a
my
link, and I'll keep it going while you're dropping
cool.
that in.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question here in just a second. Go ahead and drop that in. So again, to recap, everybody, quarterbacks, we got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, and Caleb Williams. At tight end, we got Sam Laporta, Travis Kelsey, Dalton Kincaid at 3, Mark Andrews at 4, Trey McBride, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Jake Ferguson, and TJ Hawkinson. Running back, we've got Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Jameer Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, Devon Chan, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White. And to break it, to end it, hey, let's one more time give the breaking news. CeeDee Lamb signs with Dallas Cowboys. Already had him as the number 1 wide receiver, but now we have no more concerns that he will be going anywhere. And Again, that was a $136 million deal for 4 years, according to Adam Schefter. And then we got Tyreek Hill at 2, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, and Devontae Adams, followed by Deebo Samuel. So, yeah, that's what we got there. And check the chat, guys. We'll have that in there, and I can post it in my description as well later. And guys, that'll do it for us. I want to get Steve's hot take, though. For this 2024 season, it doesn't even have to be for redraft, but Dynasty redraft. What's a hot take you got for it? I don't really need too much of a background. Just give us a take, and then I'll go ahead and close the show.
I think my hot take would be I would not be surprised if Kincaid finishes as the tight end 1 overall this year. I haven't heard.